6-1 is one of the best defenses in Madden 24. It's used by pro player Millz, Carry Q, and various other players who have had tons of success with it. Today I'm going to show you how to unlock its full potential by getting defensive backs in at linebacker so you can play coverage along with generating crazy heat on your opponent. We're going to start in the lineup section of Madden Ultimate Team, where we're going to start a new lineup. Now I recommend starting a new lineup because this is a very fussy process and you'll have to make sure your roster has the exact specifications that I'm going to lay out for you. First, we need to start 4 defensive tackles. We need to start them at right end, left end, defensive tackle 1, and defensive tackle 2. Next, we'll go to our outside linebackers where we're going to start 1 left end and 1 right end. It is important to note that these 2 ends are the only 2 ends that you can have in your entire lineup, but you're okay to put them at your backup spot behind the defensive tackles for chemistry purposes. At middle linebacker, you're going to start 1 right outside linebacker and either a middle linebacker or a left outside linebacker. That part's up to you. It can work either way, but just make sure that there's only 2 linebackers in your entire lineup. So 2 ends and 2 linebackers. That's very important. The rest of your lineup can be exactly how you want it. Just keep in mind that obviously this is pretty limiting. So if you're looking to do a 50 out of 50 theme team, you might not be able to, or even a 25 out of 25 theme team may be more restrictive than it was previously. The last thing to note is that the players that we're going to glitch into linebacker are going to be the top overalls in your roster. So players like Cam Chancellor, Deion Sanders, Ed Reed make great candidates for this. But just know that depending on your roster, these are going to be your highest overall players. Now, the tiebreaker generally goes to DBs if you use a strat card, so keep that in mind. But if you have a guy like Dan Deerdorf, an 87 overall, and your best player that you're trying to get in at linebacker is an 85 overall, just know that Dan Deerdorf will, in fact, go into the game before the desired card. So balance your lineup accordingly. Hopefully, you guys are able to make that work. Now that you have your lineup set, let's go over to practice mode because you'll want a couple reps to make sure that you get this part right. The first step is to go over to 6-1 and sub in and out your DBs. By subbing them out and then back in, that will lock them into place, which is pretty important. Just be sure not to sub in any of the DBs that you want subbed in at linebacker. After you have your defensive back subbed in, go to your left of screen end and then sub in your right outside linebacker. Then go ahead and pause the game. Scroll down to depth chart and then auto reorder depth chart. Review your offense, make sure everything's looking okay. Take notes of anything that you want to adjust on an ongoing basis. And then go ahead and switch over to right end. So on the right end screen, we're going to sub in one of our defensive tackles. Switch over to defensive tackle, and then we're going to sub in that right end back into the game. From here, we're going to go to the right outside linebacker screen, where we're going to sub in the other linebacker on your roster into right outside linebacker number 2. At this point, you're ready to go back into the game. And the last step is to switch your packages to LB Rush. And once you switch the package to LB Rush, you should be good to go. You should flip through your lineup and make sure that the players that you thought were going to end up at your outside and middle linebacker are actually there. So in recap, you have your 4 defensive backs that you subbed in and out at the beginning. At outside linebacker, you should have a couple safeties or defensive backs. At your middle linebacker, you should have the player that you would like to be your user, usually your best overall, so like a Deion Sanders if you have him. On your defensive line, you should see your 2 outside linebackers starting at ends and your 2 ends starting at defensive tackle. So at the end of the day, you actually did not start any of those defensive tackles that you put in your lineup screen, but they were a dummy placeholder to work out the rest of your roster. If this video helped you, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more helpful tip videos coming up. I'm excited to make you guys more content and have a great night.